One thing we talked about a great deal on this program, Bloomberg Bay State Business, during the pandemic, of course, is the life science industry. We watched that thrive, and also this lab space and the proliferation of lab space. Well, there's one particular agency council right in the middle of all this explosive growth, and that, of course, is the Massachusetts Biotechnology Council. Up until last fall, former State Senator Joe Boncore was its a CEO. He stepped down after about a year on the job there. And since then, they have appointed Kendalle Burlin O'Connell to become the president and CEO. Now, she has served with the Mass Biotechnology Council. She's been there, I guess, 14 years. And today she's joining us. She's the boss, and she's running everything over there. Kendalle O'Connell, thank you very much for joining us today. And congratulations on your new position there at MassBio. Tell us a little bit about what's on your desk.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for those kind words. You know, we've got quite a lot going on. We're fortunate to be here in Massachusetts, the best place in the world for life sciences. And when we think about the year ahead, you know, we want to maintain that stature. So we've got a lot of exciting work going on, and I think when I look at my core priorities this year, it's really to ensure that we have a robust and diverse workforce to sustain this incredible growth that we've seen over the last few years, to ensure that Massachusetts remains at the top in regard to our economic competitiveness, right? We can't ever take for granted where we're at, and we know there are competing clusters around the country, but we've got something that these other regions can't replicate. And so we've got to make sure that we're continuing to work with all our key stakeholders here to keep that top position. And then, you know, MassBio, as you mentioned, I've been here for 14 years, and the organization has grown so much during that time period, right? Very representative of how this cluster has grown. But we have over 1,600 member companies. And the work we do is really, you know, central to a lot of the success that this industry has experienced. And during a time like this, where maybe there's a little economic uncertainty, it's really important that we double down in supporting these companies and making sure that we maintain our robust emerging biotech ecosystem, and we give these companies everything they need to succeed, because ultimately what they're working on is to bring solutions to patients and, frankly, change the course of human health.
Yeah, Kendalle, thanks for being with us again. So what I just heard is, you know, priorities, the quest for talent, the never-ending quest for talent, which is really what keeps all this going. And that brings us to so many other issues. But my question is very simple. Where do you think you're going to spend your time in that regard? I'm thinking about housing, cost of living, the condition of our transportation system. All these things are important, not just to the biotech community, but to our economy. But where do we see Kendalle showing up at what meetings, and what buttons are you going to push? Is it housing? Is it transportation? Is it something I'm not even mentioning?
Yeah, so I think there's a two-part answer to this. Well, first of all, as it relates to these infrastructure areas, right? So as you mentioned, housing, transportation, childcare, right? These are all key considerations for companies that are looking to recruit and retain talent, that are already located here and making the argument why they should stay here, and for companies that are thinking about why Massachusetts. So these are incredibly important conversations, and MassBio will absolutely have a seat at the table, right? This industry is so important to the economy of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that it is absolutely imperative that we have a seat at the table. But more broadly, when I think about workforce, right, and you mentioned this, the recruitment has been a challenge for so long. I think it was really exacerbated through all of the incredible growth and activity we saw over the last few years. It's really important that we create opportunities for every neighborhood and every community around the Commonwealth to benefit from the successes this industry has experienced. And I'm sure you heard about this, but we're opening up a workforce training center over in Dorchester at the South Line location. And we're working really closely with the city of Boston on this, and Councilor Baker has been a huge champion for ensuring that the neighborhoods of Dorchester and the community of Dorchester is able to access these incredible jobs in the life sciences. And this is really just a starting point. We're looking to replicate this model all around the Commonwealth. And we'll work, closely with key stakeholders on this.
Yeah.
Kendalle Burlin O'Connell is the MassBio's CEO. She's our guest. These workforce needs, how significant are they? What are the numbers actually like that you need in the coming years? And how concerned are you that you'll get there?
So, if I go back to 2021, we put out our industry snapshot report. And at the time, we were looking at about 20 million square feet of lab and manufacturing development in the pipeline. And to fill that demand, we estimated we'd need 40,000 net new jobs. So we've already hit that number of development, right? It's exceeded that. But let's still use that number. I mean, there's a huge amount of opportunity in this industry. And I can tell you, and I said this, we're the number one place in the world for life sciences. We want to stay there. But if we don't have the workforce to sustain this growth, companies won't locate here. They won't stay here. They won't be able to. But I think it's a huge opportunity for us to really tap into so many of our communities that have been underrepresented, particularly our gateway cities, and help to create pathways into these incredible careers.
So, Kendalle, let's get specific here. We have a reporter who's out in San Francisco now all week at the J.P. Morgan Health Conference. And Angelica Peebles is, telling us that we are well represented out there. Biogen, Moderna, Sage Therapeutics. I mean, the list goes on. And it's almost as if we should have that conference here someday, and maybe that's something that's already on your desk. But give us, if you can, kind of a broad look at 2023 on the, I guess, the sectors within biotech where you might see, we might be surprised at the growth. We talk about the Modernas, we talk about Biogen, but what are some of the unseen, kind of nice secrets that might pop up in this new year?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And to go back to that statement you made, we'd love to have a J.P. Morgan type event here in Boston.
Well,
right?
get on it.
I'm working on it. I'm on it. It's on my to-do list. Okay. But, we're so fortunate. It's so many of our companies that are flying out to San Francisco. Let's make that happen here. Yeah. And so, when you think about what's happening, right, there was a lot of excitement but also apprehension going into J.P. Morgan. And we saw, a little bit of trickle of M&A activity, but I'll tell you, those Massachusetts companies that were Massachusetts played an outsized role, I should say, in those companies that were part of that activity. Mm-hmm. And listen, we know that there's been a slowing of the market. We know the IPO window closed, and we know we're in a bit of a market reset. But we've seen 2022 was a huge year still for VC funding coming to Massachusetts headquarter companies. So the moral of the story is, good science is continuing to be funded. And when we look at sort of big things on the horizon for the industry, I think we're seeing some incredible progress in neuroscience, right? Really promising news around Alzheimer's disease, ALS, schizophrenia. And then I think more broadly, we'll be watching companies sort of figure out what's next for mRNA and gene therapy. Mm-hmm. A lot of interesting, exciting applications in these areas, from things like cancer to Parkinson's and other CNS disorders.
Kendalle, real quickly, we're about a minute here. If Governor Maura Healey and Speaker Mariano and Senate President Spilka walked into your office, sat down right now, what would you ask them for?
I'd ask them to help be partners in keeping Massachusetts the best place in the world for life sciences. How do we get here? We got here because of incredible collaboration between industry, government, and academia. Our partners in government are so important for this. This industry is critically important to the state's economic competitiveness going forward. And how do we continue to bring jobs to residents, to bring revenue to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? We want to be your partner on these conversations.